This funky Frenchman here is the spy.
Gentlemen?
Has 125 health. It has the power to disguise as the enemy team. You see, I've always seen the spy as a special class. It is a class that requires the most knowledge to play as. You can't just play spy how you would play easier classes. You can't just spam ambassador shots down the choke point and hope an unfortunate soul steps in your crosshair and gets a headshot. Cause that's stupid. You have to actually think how you move. You see, as spy, you have 125 health, the lowest a stock class could have, which is really sad.
Oh no.
And most of the classes have 125 health, have a way to survive. Scout has its speed and double jump. Sniper has the power to headshot.
Wake him out of your head, wanker!
And Spy has stealth.
Like a wolf among the lambs.
Spy is probably the hardest class to play, but there are a few things that could change that. So join me as we meet all of the Team Fortress 2 Spy.
Yes!
So on the series, I talk about the class and their lore, weapon, and pretty much everything in between. So let's get started with the lore, because it's really cool. Spy is Scout's father, and that is 100% true as seen in this panel of the TF2 comics. You should really go check it out. This panel showed Spy disguised as Tom Jones, who Scout is a big fan of, in order to tell Scout that he is his father. Sounds kind of like Star Wars if you think. Which, yeah. It sort of relates to the game since Spy and Scout are very similar. Scout deals enough damage so that your team can finish out the rest, and Spy distracts the enemy with paranoia, causing them to try and kill the spy instead of your team.
Bloody spy!
Spy also helps the team a lot through the TF2 original short film called Expiration Date, where Spy and the TF2 mercs have only 3 days left to live because of tumors from teleported bread, which is really absurd. So, after hearing that they have 3 days to live because of bread, Spy arranges the team and gives a heartwarming speech and lets the team say their dying wishes. But Scout ruins it all by drawing Spy get hit by a car. Even though the loudmouth Boston boy ruined his heroic speech, Spy still ends up helping him go on a date with Miss Pauling. But it's fine. They didn't really die. The bread was fine, and the tumors thing was all false. Yay. Spy is extremely polite and often gets teased by Scout because of it. In this panel, Spy is sharing cyanide with Miss Pauling, which just proves that he is often polite with women. Why does that sound weird now that I say it in the microphone? Now, let's move on to the weapons part of the video. First off, we start off with the stock. Also, I know the footage just isn't the stock knife and stuff, but just bear with me, please. Okay, so the stock revolver is a stock spy's only long-range weapon, and is extremely reliable when the team is too far for a backstab, and it does 55 to 60 damage at point blank, 35 to 45 damage at medium range, 20 to 25 at long range, and that's why people use it a lot. The revolver fires a single shot perfectly accurate before bullet spread takes effect. Waiting 1.25 seconds will reset the accuracy and provide another accurate shot, and is great with dealing with pyros, since pyros rely on close range. Next up is the sapel. Sapel. It has only one use, and that is to destroy engineer buildings. Sapper is the only spy weapon that does not drop your disguise after use. The sapper will slowly pick at an engineer building's health and eventually destroying it. However, it only takes 2 hits from any engineer wrenches, except for the jag, which takes 3. So it's a good idea to backstab the engineer before sapping the buildings. Next is the butterfly knife, and it can instantly kill any players on backstab regarding overheals. The only things that can block a backstab is a uber charge and a razorback. However, the butterfly knife does a total of 40 damage when stabbing players in the front. Lastly, the Invis Watch and Disguise Kit. This Disguise Kit lets you take on the appearance of any enemy players, taking on their cosmetics, names, health, and weapons. If you use any weapons other than the sapper, your disguise will be dropped, and the Invis Watch lets you turn invisible for a period of time before uncloaking, making you visible once more. The cloak meter can be refilled with ammo packs, however you may not attack while cloaked, which is a common misconception for free-to-plays. Now let's get to the unlockable weapons. First of all, the Latron J. The Latron J has a slow cumulative flicker and gives you 15% more cloak that temporarily extends based on cloak value. This weapon gives you more cloak, but in return has a 37% damage penalty.
Oh no.
This weapon is better used with your eternal reward, since it counters the cloak drain of your eternal reward, which is really good since that extra cloak could go a long way. Next up, the Ambassador. This gun turns you a very non-sniper class into a very sniper class. It gives you 100% crit on headshot, but has a 15% damage penalty on body shots. It has a 20% slower firing speed, and no random crits, which is just Valve's way of saying we have no idea what downside to give to this weapon. This weapon is not as effective as the stock revolver, but you can give it a shot if you want. I just started using it after that one Dust Bowl game where I got it for free. Next, the Diamondback. Diamondback gives guaranteed crits once a building is sapped or you get a backstab. And wow, that's some sick upsides. So the downside must be huge, right? Right?
Nope.
It's just 15% damage penalty and no random crits. We don't need random crits because there's guaranteed crits, and the damage penalty is also covered by the guaranteed crits. So really, the downsides are goddamn useless. It's one of those weapons that's fun to play with, but not fun to deal with. Like, if there's a spy who you're about to kill, but then a dispenser on the other side of the map gets sapped and you get killed, it's like the worst death ever. Then we have the Enforcer. This is actually one of my personal favorites, but it's not that good. Attacks, fierce damage resistances, effects, and bonuses, which means it completely ignores the damage resistances and effects of any weapon other than the Uber Charge and the Bonk Atomic Punch. So the Wrangler resistances and the Debringer damage resistances are completely useless. And of course, there's a 20% damage bonus while disguise, and 20% slower firing speed, and no random crits. You can't forget about that. Then we move on to the more interesting part, the knives. Seriously, this is really interesting. First, the Spicicle. The Spicicle gives the player 1 second of fire immunity and 7 seconds of afterburn immunity when touched by a flame particle when it's activated. which is good when there's a crowd of pyros looking to turn you into Pyroland fried spy. However, the knife can't be used again after it melts until after 15 seconds, but it could be reduced with ammo bags. However, a pyro might purposely set you on fire just to melt the bicycle, just to stop you from backstabbing. But there is one last stat. That is, that backstabbing a player turns it into ice statues. You might not think this is that much of a deal, but it alerts players that there's a spy around the area, which kinda just takes the meaning of spy away, doesn't it? Next is the Carnivor's kunai, but most people just call this the kunai. This weapon is often hated because it's really dumb. But it's really the weapon that usually paired up with it that should be hated. And that is the Dead Ringer. But we'll get to that later. So the kunai drops your already low 125 health to a whopping 70, which means getting breathed on could literally kill you. You basically get one shot by anything, making you extremely vulnerable. But the upside lets you steal the enemy player's health, after backstabbing the player, of course. The max health you could get is 210, and the rest gets turned into overheal. Overheal slowly decays over time. And then we have the Your Eternal Reward. In the background footage, I'm literally only using the Your Eternal Reward, so I have a lot to say. The YER is the best spy knife in my eyes. It turns spy into what it's supposed to be, a master of stealth. You take on the disguise of the player you stabbed, and the body disappears after a few seconds. The disguise smoke isn't there, and the stab sound is basically silent. But a sound still could be heard. But it is easily drowned out by other sounds, like a heavy shooting minigun. The disguise is so fast that sentries don't shoot you after you backstab, so you don't have to get sweaty when trying to stab and stab. However, a normal disguise takes the entire cloak meter, and there is a 33% cloak drain rate. Then lastly, the Big Earner. It gives you 30% cloak on kill and a gain speed boost on kill. However, it gives you 25% less health, which isn't as much as the kunai, but still makes you vulnerable to a lot of things. Then the sappers. There is only one other option, and it is the red tape recorder. It deconstructs the engineer buildings, and any applicable upgrade animations are played in reverse, followed by the building packing itself up into a toolbox. As a result, this destroys the building and leaves the toolbox behind as a large ammo pickup with no metal. But it has a 100% sapper damage penalty. Then the watches. First, the Cloak and Dagger, my personal favorite. The Cloak and Dagger refills your cloak when you don't move, Squid Game style, but loses cloak when you move, also Squid Game style. Not really, but you may not refill it with ammo boxes when invisible, and gives you 35% less cloak from ammo boxes. Then the Dead Ringer. This weapon sucks. When you die while holding the Dead Ringer out, a fake corpse of you falls on the ground, and you turn invisible and invincible with a speed boost so that you can fake your own death and run away with it. And also, you can also fake the enemy's death. It has a plus 50% cloak regen rate and a plus 40% cloak duration, but it takes 55% of your cloak when you use it. And that's all of Spy's weapons. Yes. In conclusion, I think Spy is a really hard class to play as and requires the right weapons and technique. As Spy, there are a lot of things you can do to make you survive longer and deal more damage, and is best used when used wisely. Anyway, see ya.